Thank you, Cardiff. Thank you. So, thank you very much. Thank you, Chapter Heart. So, I never believed them when they said you get more right-wing as you get older. What about those bloody Jews, eh? Poisoning our wells, stealing our babies. Is this on? Is it too soon? All right, I'll do the Liberal set. I've got two different versions of this show, luckily. So, welcome to the show. It's called Hitler Moustache, in which I'm attempting to reclaim the toothbrush moustache, as it should be called, for comedy. Because Charlie Chaplin had it first, then Hitler came along, kind of ruined it for everyone. It was probably the worst thing he ever did. Because this was once quite a fashionable moustache, but now the only place you'll see this in the 21st century is carved into the pubic hair of a naughty lady. Robert Mugabe's got a little one as well. I think it's fair to say the only place you'll see this moustache is on a cunt. So why has this square inch of hair, this nasal welcome mat, that's all it is? Why is it taking the blame for Hitler's crimes? Because I don't think it was the moustache that was responsible, yeah. Somehow, along with the name Adolf and the swastika, which was originally a Hindu symbol of peace, we're not even allowed to have these things anymore. Isn't that Hitler's final victory, that he still possesses these things 70 years on? Shouldn't we take them back from him? So I just wanted to see if it was possible to reclaim this moustache, whether it was wise to reclaim this moustache. And what would happen to me if I went around the streets of modern-day Britain with this on my face? Because this is real, this isn't stuck on, it's growing out of my face. Look, it's 24/7. It's a big commitment to make what is essentially quite a glib point. So, would the moustache make me evil? Maybe it was the moustache that was responsible. Would it make me successful? Because it worked for Hitler, didn't it? Would it take me from the beer cellars I'm currently playing to massive stadium gigs with people chanting my name? Because I could do with that, to be honest. I've been going 20 fucking years. It's about time. It was mainly Heiling at Hitler's gigs. He only had about 10 minutes of actual material. It was very repetitive, same basic stuff every single week. It was like the third series of Little Britain. In more ways than one, now I think about it. But you can relax, Cardiff, and at home, don't worry. I am definitely the best stand-up comedian you are ever going to see, so do sit back and enjoy. I don't know the meaning of the word hubris, which is a shame, because straight after this I'm taking part in a Define the Meaning of the Word Hubris competition. I'm not bothered, though. I think I'm definitely going to win anyway. Some people think it's a mistake to start so early with a joke that depends on the audience knowing the definition of quite an obscure word. It's quite hubristic to put that one in so early. Probably a cock joke would have been better at that juncture, though I do have to say I am my own worst critic, though my self-criticism is mediocre at best. Love to see some ladies in tonight. It's always terrific when the ladies feel they can come out and see the comedy with the men. You're most welcome, girls. Don't worry, I'm not one of these sexist, women-hating comedians. I love women. I'm not a sexist. I've actually got a friend who's a woman, so I can't be sexist. I strongly believe that women should be treated as if they're equal. That is, that's a credo I live my life by, so you're in safe hands tonight, sweetheart. Don't worry, it's going to be fine. So I just didn't think it was fair that this moustache had the associations that it has. I wanted to see if I could wrestle Hitler to the ground, kick him in the ball, and take it back from him. Maybe make it fashionable again. I guess my ultimate goal, if I'm honest, I was hoping it would, in future, it would be renamed, so it was known as the herring moustache. Although that does sound like something you'd get after giving oral sex to someone with questionable personal hygiene, but just ignore that. If you ignore that, it's still a good name. Don't be childish about it. It's a good name. You don't think about that. But I met a lot of resistance very early on. I hadn't anticipated this show being as controversial as it's turned out to be. Before I'd even grown the moustache, I was talking to my Jewish friend, Dan, about the idea. He said, you're right, the moustache shouldn't have the associations that it has. But the thing is, it does have those associations. You can't change it, and it's offensive to try. Don't know what he's got against Hitler. So, other people were egging me on, and they're saying you should get your hair cut like Hitler as well. I was going, I'm not trying to be Hitler. Someone had a crack at that. It didn't work out too well. It's just about the moustache. Someone said you should dress up in an SS uniform and kind of goose step around outside the synagogue. I said, look, I'm not trying to upset anyone. Someone genuinely said I should go to Auschwitz with this moustache and gauge the reaction. I said, look, I'm not trying to offend anyone. It's just fascinating to me that this moustache is on the face of arguably the funniest man of the 20th century and arguably the most evil man of the 20th century. The same moustache. I'm not talking about Blakey from On the Buses and Mr. Bronson from Grange Hill. It's Chaplin and Hitler. They both had this moustache. How can it be funny on one face and evil on another? Is this the point where comedy and evil meet? Is it the subtle knife between those two universes? Might I slip either way with this on my face? What if Hitler and Chaplin had ever kissed? Would the universe have been destroyed by that dichotomy, or would they have just stuck together like Velcro? It's very hard to say, but I don't think comedy and evil are opposites by any means. I think they're two hands in the same glove. They're very similar things. I think comedians and fascist dictators, they're very similar personality types. Seriously, they're both quite needy of adulation, quite opinionated, love addressing big crowds. They're quite childish, insecure, maybe slightly insane. Someone like Mussolini would have been a brilliant stand-up comedian if he'd gone down that road, and there are a lot of stand-up comedians who make fantastic fascist dictators. Naming no names, Stuart Lee. So, but there are these kind of spooky similarities between Hitler and Chaplin. They lived parallel lives. They were born 4 days apart. Chaplin was exactly 4 days older than Hitler. Chaplin put on the moustache, became the tramp. Hitler was homeless before he had the moustache, but it was the moustache for both of them. That was the turning point in their careers. They both had mental illness in their families. They were terrified of being passed down to them. It's arguable that Hitler secretly had Jewish blood in his family, which he was obviously quite keen to cover up, whilst everyone assumed that Chaplin was Jewish. He wasn't, but he didn't dissuade them from that opinion. He was proud to be associated with what he saw as a fine race. They both developed quite an amusing walk. When talkies came in, that wrecked Chaplin's career, but it made Hitler's career. I think it's fair to say that after World War II, both their fan bases pretty much dropped off. Hitler said quite a cool thing, amongst the many cool things that he said. When he first had the moustache, the financial backers of the Nazi Party asked him to shave it off. They thought he looked ridiculous, or at least grow it to the end of his mouth like a normal person. He refused. He said, it's not the fashion now, but it will be later because I wear it. That's quite cool, isn't it? It's quite confident. I wish I'd said that to my friend Dan. That would have shut him up. But you might be surprised to hear this, ladies. I am not the only man in this room who has sported the toothbrush moustache. In fact, I'd go as far as saying that every single man in this room who is capable of growing a beard and has at any point had to shave it off, he won't have told you about this, but what every single man does when it comes to shaving, in the privacy of his own bathroom, he'll try a few different styles just to see. He might go for a little Yorkshire Ripper beard. It doesn't mean he wants to hammer women over the head. He's just seeing how it would look. Maybe a Mexican bandit. He might do the Beppe from EastEnders. Remember that? That's next year's show, actually. The Beppe's beard next year. That's what I'm doing. I don't think that one's possible to reclaim. It's too offensive. The last thing every man will do, he'll go down to the Hitler moustache. He'll do a little see Kyle himself in the mirror, laugh to himself about how amusing he has just been, then quickly shave it off before anyone sees. I did all that, except I kept the moustache on. Who's the man you should really be scared of? The man proudly wearing this moustache out in the open, or the man surreptitiously trying it out in clandestine circumstances, never telling us, laughing about how funny he is? I know who I'm more scared of, and you're sitting right next to him, I have to tell you, but I know when I looked at it, I expected to laugh when I first shaved down to this moustache, but it seemed like a funny idea on paper, this. But I looked at myself in the mirror, I couldn't even smile. For about the first week I had this moustache, I was just in a permanent grimace. I was frowning, like the weight of history was dragging my face downwards, because I just looked so evil, and I started to worry maybe it was the moustache that was responsible for Hitler's crimes, because he was quite nice before he grew it. He just did painting and stuff. Maybe the moustache has some kind of totemistic, supernatural power. If you don't have the bowler hat to counteract the evil, I don't have a bowler hat. I was terrified. So, and that afternoon, the first afternoon I had this moustache, I came up with what I think is probably the most evil joke I've ever written. Was that the moustache influencing me? It's not a joke I think I could ever say in public, certainly not on DVD. It's just too offensive. I don't think you'd like it because, no, because it's about Madeleine McCann. I don't think anyone would want to hear that. So, well, we can put it to the vote. Who would like to hear the Madeleine McCann joke? Cheer now? Yeah. You don't have to be so gleeful about it. Who really doesn't want to hear the Madeleine McCann joke? Cheer now? Yeah, well, that's one strange man. It might be someone dying or orgasming. I don't know. You're the only sensible person in this room. That's why democracy is fucked there, sir. You are correct. This joke shouldn't be told, but the mob has spoken. Were the majority right when they crucified Jesus? On that occasion they were. That wasn't a very good example. So, the joke was, do block your ears, just fast forward a bit if you don't want to hear it. It was the 2-year anniversary of Madeleine's disappearance, and they'd come up with that composite picture of what they imagined she'd look like now. I'm sure you saw it. It was quite an idealised image, kind of long blonde hair, little pink Alice band there, sort of slightly smiling, wearing a gingham dress. I thought to myself, whoever's got her is really looking after her. Better than her parents did, if we're honest. So I knew I could never tell that joke in public. I'd be booed off stage if I even attempted. But it wasn't the moustache that made me come up. It's too late to boo now, so you had your chance to stop that. You know, you go home and think about what you've done. You're a bad person, but Was it the moustache that made me come up with that joke? I think if you looked at that picture and didn't think something along those lines, then maybe there's a little bit too much optimism in your heart. I think it's human to think cynical things like these. Perhaps it's evil to express them. I'm not sure it is, but again, it's where comedy and evil, they're very close bedfellows there. I don't think it was the moustache that was responsible for me coming up with that joke. I think that was me. But I was more concerned that the moustache might make me racist. No, seriously, that was quite a big worry for me because I am not a racist. But, having grown the moustache, I did start to wonder if maybe the racists had a point. No, not as popular in Cardiff as the Madeleine McCann material, I know. So that's interesting. Bear with me on this one, OK? Give me a couple of minutes. First of all, are there any racists in tonight, just by cheering? There's usually one or two. People often have misinterpreted the poster, I think it is. It's a little bit confusing. He's not coming back. I'm afraid this isn't his comeback gig. It's just me. It isn't even like that Elvis show, him on a big screen doing his greatest hits. It's only going to be me. I'm sorry. But maybe there are some racists in tonight, but you wouldn't admit it if you were, because it's kind of the worst thing you could be in modern-day society, isn't it? Which is correct. I think, but we're not even allowed to discuss racism anymore. We're afraid to. I think for fear of upsetting each other, for fear of saying the wrong thing. But we should talk about it. It's an important subject. We live in a multicultural society, and it throws out some interesting dichotomies. For example, if a guy said to you he hated all black people, I think you despise that person immediately, quite correctly. But if a guy said to you he hated all of humanity, you'd prefer that guy to the guy who just hates the black people. Even though this guy, he still hates all the black people, he's exactly the same as him, but he also hates everyone else as well. I mean, at least this guy likes someone. There's some love in his heart, there's some hope for him, but I think you're right, because, there is no logic to hating anyone based on their race. I think there is a certain logic to hating all of humanity, but believe me, I have to work with you. You're scum. In reality, I'm a woolly liberal, and I'm guessing you probably think the same as me. I don't want to speak for you, so do shout out if you disagree with this, but my philosophy is quite a nice one, is that everyone in the world is the same and should be treated the same, regardless of the colour of their skin, their sex, or their sexuality. That's a nice way. Everyone should be the same. That's a nice way of looking at stuff. But, right, I've got this friend, right, his dad is English, but his mum is from Asia somewhere. I can never quite remember exactly where she's from. It's either Malaysia or Singapore or the Philippines. It's one of those countries there. But he's like my best friend. I should know his heritage. It's a source of massive embarrassment that I don't know where he's from. A source of liberal guilt. But to a racist, he's just Chinese. That's that. Sorted out. It doesn't matter that his dad's English. It doesn't matter that his mum's not Chinese. He's Chinese. That's that issue over. Let's move on with our lives. In fact, to a racist, pretty much anyone from Hawaii, right through Fiji, up through all those Australasian islands, Thailand, Vietnam, Siberia even, China and Tibet, they're all Chinese. 1 in 4 of the world's population, immediately exactly the same. Is that ugly or is that kind of beautiful? Because you and I, we probably see the world as 195 different countries, 195 distinct types of people. To a racist, there are just 4 types of people. There are 191 closer than you to seeing everyone in the world as exactly the same. That's what you want. The racist is better at being liberal than you are. I mean, that's embarrassing. There's 4 types. So the racist, there's 4 types. There's Chinese, obviously. There's black, there's white. The 4th type is amazing. It's a beautiful vision of a possible utopian future. The 4th type basically encompasses anyone from the Indian subcontinent, right through the Middle East, North Africa, Southern Europe even, right through to Mexico, the Hispanic parts of South America, this vast swathe of humanity, all the same. Basically, anyone who could be played by the actor Nadeem Sawalha. To a racist or a casting director, there is no difference. They can see no difference. You're going from El Salvador or Iraq. You're the same. Isn't that what you want? That's beautiful. And look at the people of India and Pakistan, right? They hate each other. They're always fighting. There could be nuclear war between those 2 countries that will destroy the world. If only the people of India and Pakistan could see themselves the way a racist sees them. They go, what are we doing? Why are we fighting? I'm a Paki, you're a Paki. I'm from India, mate. Yeah, he's still a Paki. I mean, I'm not being rude. I don't like the name, Most of the world's conflagrations happen between peoples that racists would see as identical. Israel, Palestine, they're all yints. What are they fighting about? It's Northern Ireland, Southern Ireland, they're all stupid paddies. What are they got to argue about? Mental, aren't they? Swansea versus Cardiff, you're all inbred, incestuous paedophiles. Trying to have sex within your family if at all possible. That's if there's no sheep available. Obviously, you would prefer that even if a human being wanted to have sex with you, seaweed all down your faces. There's bread with wheat now. You can eat that if you want. Wishing you lived in a brilliant country like England instead of the shithole you live in now. Oh, that's the only one I didn't like, was it, mate? That's interesting. Racist. So, they're the most extreme racists see the world as just 2 types of people. You're either white or you're black. They're just 1 step away. Just just one mental leap to make and everyone in the world will be exactly the same. You're 194 steps away from that utopia, yet you dare judge them. You make me sick, you hypocrites. But, of course, that doesn't quite work out, does it? Because, of course, it is important that we respect people's cultural differences. Is it, though? Seriously, is it important that we respect people's cultural differences? I'm not joking. Aren't our cultural differences just ways we artificially differentiate ourselves from each other when we are, in fact, identical? These little things that are created to make conflict between each other, to create an air of superiority over one of each other. They're not important. These ephemera. What clothes we wear, what food we eat, which pretend man in the sky we pretend to believe in, what we do with our foreskins. These things are not important. They're just shop window dressing there to disguise the fact the human race is identical. The truth about the human race is we all come from exactly the same place. Homo sapiens began around about 200,000 years ago in East Africa. Every human being on this planet is related to those first East Africans who spread around the world, filling every corner of this globe over the next 200,000 years. In fact, every other ethnicity, apart from Africans, this is incredible, are related to just 100 individual people who left Africa only 70,000 years ago. They spread around, filling every corner of the earth. Every ethnicity is created from those 100 Africans, whether you're Aborigine, Inuit, anything in between, you're related to those 100 people. Any difference between us is just down to adaptation to climate, sexual preference, pure blind luck. So the racists, they are closer to being white. We're these swathes of humanity, except there's not four, there's just one type. We're all from the same place. And it's brilliant that you're not allowed to be racist in the modern world, unless, of course, you're religious, in which case it's fine. Because it says you're allowed to hate other races in an old book. And who want to argue against that? An old book? It's a book, but it's old. I mean, you'd be crazy to... Oh, an old book? Who would argue... A book, yeah, something I'll get, not an old book. You wouldn't argue. You'd be insane to argue about. So, what gets me, if you are religious, you essentially believe that God is a racist. You believe that God created all of humanity, all the different colours, creeds and kinds, but he prefers your little flavour of human beings over all the others. He's looking down and I don't know why I bothered making all those other types. They're shit, aren't they? Why did I do that? That's ridiculous. I just like the ones who live here, this colour, noses like that. They're brilliant. I know, and I hate. What am I going to do with all these ones I don't even like? It's Stu and I'll probably have to burn them in a big lake of fire, I suppose, because it's kind of their fault that they turned out not the right ones. I hope I'm not mentally ill. Some people argue that maybe the different gods created the different tribes of the earth and that's why they can have a preference. It's interesting if that's the case, that all these competing gods made the human race to the exact same basic template, isn't it? They got together on that. They laid aside their differences, made us the same. They made us sexually compatible. That was an interesting choice. When you think in the early 1980s, they couldn't even decide between VHS and Betamax, it just seems unlikely they'd get together on that design. But I think we have to fight against these racist gods, because I think it's wrong. Racism is wrong wherever it occurs, even in heaven. But what we have to do for the next 50, 100 years, we all have to go out and have as much sex as possible with people from different ethnic backgrounds to ourselves, OK? Try and get pregnant with each other. Within 100 years, everyone in the world will look exactly the same again. God will be looking down going, I can't even tell which of the ones I'm supposed to like anymore. How am I meant to judge them now? By their personalities? That'll be too time-consuming. They used my own design flaw against me. Why did I make them sexually compatible? That was insane. Oh, no. Oh, well, I'll just send another flood. So I looked at myself in the mirror this first day and I was a bit worried. How were people going to respond to me out in the real world? I mean, would people look at me and assume I was a fascist because of my moustache? And if so, isn't that a bit fascistic of them to just judge me by my appearance? Why assume I'm emulating Hitler? Why not assume I'm emulating Oscar Deutsch, the Jewish man who created the Odeon cinema channel? Who's the racist now? I was quite worried people would see me with this moustache and assume I was a paedophile. No, because it's quite a paedophile-y moustache, isn't it? You know, if I was a paedophile, the last thing I'm going to do is grow a Hitler moustache and draw attention to myself. I don't think it works as a double bluff, either. I don't think people are going to go, well, he's got a Hitler moustache. He can't be a paedophile. A paedophile wouldn't grow one of those for fear of looking like a paedophile. So let's let him babysit our kids. I imagine it'll be... I think people would err on the side of caution without... Having said that, most paedophiles you do see in the papers, they do really look like paedophiles, don't they? I don't know if there are any paedophiles in tonight. I'm not condoning what you're doing. In fact, I think it's wrong. I don't care how unpopular that makes me coming down from London with my fancy notions, but that is what I think. But if there are any paedophiles in tonight, why not try and disguise yourself a bit just so you look like a normal human? It's too obvious, mate. The glasses... the face fur, the kind of leather jacket trying to fit in. There's a pocket full of sweets. I mean, you're like a photo. It's like you're a photo. I think I might have seen you in the paint. Let's beat the shit out of him on the way out. Get a good close-up of him, just we'll get him on Crime Watch. So, it's like you're going to get treated very badly in prison, mate. That's all. Is that what you wanted? Maybe it is. But my biggest fear was that someone would come up to you. Just have to hope they use the second show for that bit. My biggest fear is someone would come up to me. If you pay me enough money, I'll make sure that happens. So, my biggest fear is that someone would come up to me, put their hand on my shoulder, go, well done, mate. About fucking time. So, I was quite trepidatious, I have to say. I stayed in my house for about 5 hours the first time I had this moustache, terrified to go out. I live in Shepherd's Bush in West London. It's a multicultural area. Every ethnicity is basically represented in my street. How are my neighbours going to respond to this new fashion statement? Will I get spat at in the street? Will I get verbally assaulted? Will I get physically abused because of this moustache? I know, I'm saying I didn't want to upset anyone, but I guess, if I'm honest, I was expecting some kind of reaction. I think I wanted a reaction. I was doing this for a comedy show. It's quite a confrontational thing to do, and I expected people to give me a hard... I'd come up with some put-downs. If someone had me down on the floor, kicking me in the head, I was going to go, oh, do you not like the films of Charlie Chaplin? I mean, I know they've slightly dated, but this seems an extreme critique. But if an old fella came up to me and said, I didn't fight in World War II so you could walk around with a Hitler moustache, I was going to say, well, actually, you did. That's why you did. Thank you for fighting for that freedom. It's a great thing you did for us. But, so, you know, I didn't think I wanted to upset anyone, but I guess I was hoping for some kind of reaction. And I went out to buy a newspaper. I've dipped my toe in the water. You know what? Nobody said a thing. No one even seemed to notice me. They just carried on. I don't know if we don't look at each other anymore, whether we just don't care. But all the time I've had this moustache, nobody's come up to me and said, what the fuck do you think you're doing? No one's challenged me about it. Occasionally people will laugh at me, usually when they've just that second passed me, as if they think this makes me deaf as well. I can still hear you if you're just there. I can still hear you. Sometimes if there's a group of lads, there has to be quite a few of them, they might go, oh, yeah, Adolf, C-car, but, you know, they won't, not if it's just one bloke on his own. There's some confusion, I have to say. Sometimes a bit open-mouthed astonishment, but double takes. But no one has asked me what I'm doing. I can't believe it. I don't know if people look at me and just assume I must be mad, so they don't want to engage with me. Maybe they think I'm bad. You know, I don't look like much, but I must be pretty tough if I've grown this moustache. If you say anything, I'll beat the shit out. I don't know. I really don't know what people are thinking. My best guess, and I don't know what people are thinking, but my best guess is people see me with this moustache walking around, and they just assume that I'm a bit of a dick. So they don't want to rise to it, which, to be fair, is exactly how I felt. I just felt stupid with this moustache. I felt like a sixth former trying to make this facile point. Well, there's no reason this moustache should be offensive. I don't see why I shouldn't walk around with it on my face, and if you're offended by it, I think that's your lookout. It's just some hair. I don't see that hair can be offensive. It's just hair. So actually, I'm emulating Oscar Deutsch, the Jewish man who created the Odeon cinema chain. I don't even know who Hitler is. In fact, I don't know why I just brought that name up. I've never heard of him, as I said. I don't know if I've just guessed that someone like that might have a... Just pathetic. And I felt like I disfigured myself. I felt ugly. I'm not a vain man, but, you know, I couldn't escape this. And I felt ugly. And I felt like a social leper. It was worse than no one was saying anything. Everywhere I went, I don't really like being the centre of attention out in the real world. You know, I felt, and I've never done crazy fashions and stuff, but I felt everyone was looking at me, making a silent judgment about me, which was worse than saying anything. And I felt I could be punched in the face at any moment just because of the way I looked, which I guess I hadn't anticipated that, but it gave me a view into what it must feel like to be a minority judged by your appearance on a daily basis, fearful that someone might attack you just because of the way you look, except I was a minority of one. You know, there was no one backing me up on this one. At the end of the first day, I passed a Jewish guy in a shopping centre, and he seemed to flinch as I passed him, and I was thinking, was that me? Am I just being paranoid? Maybe that wasn't even anything to do with me. But, you know, I knew before I'd grown this moustache, this was a stupid comedy stunt for a comedy show. I knew, in reality, there was no way I was going to change the meaning of this moustache. I'm just one man. It was always going to be Hitler's. It was never going to be mine. So was it worth even upsetting one other human being for this stupid, pathetic, puerile idea? But, you know, I'd had all the posters printed up by then, so I had to push on with it. The second day, I thought I'd put it to the test. I went to a big stadium gig. In the audience, there'd be thousands of people there. I thought someone was bound to make a comment. I went to see my friend Al Murray, the pub landlord at the O2 Arena. 17,000 people in that enclosed space. I thought someone was bound to make a remark. But, of course, I had forgotten it was an Al Murray gig. So, of course, 80% of the audience already had this moustache. I fit in pretty well. Made some good friends that day. I got some pen pals out of it, actually. That is a very unfair joke. I love Al Murray. He's one of my friends. I even used to write for that character, some of you may know. And I think Al came up there with a brilliant satire of that racist Little England attitude that perhaps we're talking about here. But maybe it's fair to say that in recent years, as he's got a bit more successful, there's a proportion of his audience who are enjoying that act on a non-ironic level. Is that fair, though? Is it possible to tell how someone else is enjoying something through their laughter? Is it possible to tell the difference between an ironic and an unironic laugh? Really? Are we not ourselves making an awful judgment there? Are we not sitting there thinking, well, these people are working class. They couldn't possibly understand irony. Obviously, I understand what's going on here. Of course I do. But these poor souls, they're taking it on a base level. How awful for them. Is it not us making the terrible judgment in that case? Maybe. Having said that, having sat through 2 hours of the gig, I'm pretty convinced I'm right. But I was in the celebrity section of the O2 Arena because I was on TV 10 years ago, so I am a celebrity. But to give you some idea of my current celebrity standing, I was in the second last row of a very large celebrity section. To give you some idea of where I rest in the firmament, I was in the row behind Jim Rosenthal. the ITV sports presenter. I was in the row in front of Science from Big Brother, though, so yeah. Not dead yet. But interestingly, Jim Rosenthal is the only person who made a remark about this moustache the whole first week I had it. Not to my face, no one did. But someone emailed me to tell me they'd overheard him. Apparently, Jim Rosenthal saw me, he turned to his wife, he said, "Is that a Hitler moustache? Oh dear." Only Jim Rosenthal has stood up to this moustache, ladies and gentlemen. If the fascists ever do take over, only Jim Rosenthal will be standing there, looking at them, slightly tutting. So, but there were a lot of my friends at this gig as well. There was a big party afterwards. Some of my friends knew what I was up to, just laughed at me or called me a prick. But the friends who didn't know what I was doing, they didn't say anything either. Even my own friends. I could see them looking a bit confused, kind of glancing down at my mouth when they thought I wasn't looking. I was thinking, well, he hasn't been on TV for a while. Maybe he's finally flipped. He can't cope with the fall from grace. What is this? My own friends, are we not judgmental in this country? Are we too polite? Please, people do remember who Hitler was. It's not that, is it? Or is it just we've never encountered this moustache? We don't know how we're supposed to respond to it. Are we just shut down? I can't believe no one was saying anything. If it's not an elephant in the room, it's at least a caterpillar on my face. But I guess it got funny when I forgot it was there, which happens pretty much all the time. I can't say it. I sometimes go and work in the British Library in London, basically because I'm 42 years old now. I can just go back there for an afternoon and pretend I'm still at university, I'm still young. There's a lot of very attractive 23-year-old student women working there. I can just go there, pretend I'm writing. I'm never writing. And just slightly lech over them. You know, I'm just looking. It's all right. It's all right. If you're looking at me, you're allowed to look, aren't you? You can look as much as you want, can't you? You mustn't touch them. You do understand that. It's all right. So, you sure? Because we're definitely using you in this bit, by the way. Just no question of it. You mustn't touch them. You do understand, right? But you keep looking, mate. If they stop you looking, Al-Qaeda has won, my friend. So you take one of our British rights. That is in the Magna Carta, the right of disgusting old men to leer aggressively at pretty women. That is what makes us British, so don't ever let that go. So I sat down opposite this very attractive 23-year-old student. She was just staring at me. I thought, Richard Herring, you old dog, you still got it. Then I remembered about the moustache. 3 minutes later, she gathered up all her stuff and went and sat at the other side of the library. But to be honest, that could have just been because of the way I was staring at her. It might have nothing to do with the moustache. I was hating having this moustache. This first week was just like a living hell. I was feeling really unhappy. I was just depressed. I was staying in the house much more than I usually did to avoid the confrontation, even though no one was saying that. I couldn't bear that I was being judged in this way. And I started pulling bits of this out subconsciously, like a caged animal. I was so desperate to be getting rid of it. And I was scared that I might be punched in the face. I was worried for my physical well-being, but I was also worried about my mental health. Now, as a comedian, I'm always flirting around with mental illness for this prescribed time in this prescribed place. But I am worried that one day I might actually go over the edge. And with this, it was inescapable. This is with me all the time. You know, how long was I going to have this moustache? If I was going to have it on the tour as well, this could be a whole year of walking around the country feeling this awful. And I was worried that might flip me over the edge. I saw a homeless guy on the tube platform around about this time. There was a respectable middle-aged woman walking up the platform. She hadn't done a thing. He was just shouting at her, "You stupid bitch! You stupid fucking whore! You stupid fucking bitch!" I thought, that's essentially my job. That's why I get about that drunk when I'm working. Actually, that's quite a good routine. I should write that down. And the only difference between me and that guy is once I finished, I then go home. That's it. I'm one step away. And, I was worried this might actually generally send me over the edge. And, I knew by now that Dan was right. It was offensive to try and reclaim this moustache. It was always going to be the Hitler moustache. It was never going to be the Herring moustache. So was it worth upsetting my mental and physical well-being to entertain an idiot like this bloke? I mean, to be honest, he hasn't even been laughing that much. I mean, I've been through a lot for you. Mate, as I've got older, I've started wondering, when is a comedy stunt in a show like this actually more important than my own personal happiness? When I was younger, I didn't care. I'd do anything for a joke. But now I'm old. I'm 42. I'm not sure I'm prepared to put myself through this. I've got a girlfriend. Every night she has to kiss Hitler, go to bed with Hitler. I mean, luckily she's a gigantic pervert. It's worked out pretty well. She dresses up as Eva Braun. We go down in the cellar. If anything, it's rescued the relationship, probably, but it could have gone. No, a few years ago, I didn't care. I did a show a few years ago called The 12 Tasks of Hercules Terrace, which was a modern-day version of The Labors of Hercules, 12 crazy stunts that kind of interrupted my normal, everyday life. One of the things that Hercules did was he impregnated 50 women in one night. It wasn't one of his official 12, but I decided to bump that up the charts a bit. I thought that was better than cleaning some shit out of a stable. So, what I decided to do to emulate him was to date 50 women in 50 consecutive nights. No night off, 50 different women, 50 days in a row, 50 different dates. I thought that would be a challenge. I thought it would lead to some funny stories. I hadn't anticipated it leading to any genuine romance. I was being honest with all these people. That I was seeing 49 other people at the same time. I thought that might put the dampeners on the romance there, but weirdly, it was quite a good way of meeting people because it was light-hearted. It was just fun. It wasn't too serious, but it was immediately quite intimate. And I met a lot of single people, a lot of people I got on with very well. And early on, I met a girl that I completely clicked with. Okay, but I couldn't go on a second date with her for a month and a half because I had to date another 40 women. So the next week, we decided to meet up for lunch. That was our only option before I went on my proper date that evening. And sure enough, the chemistry was still there in the daylight. It was a lovely lunch date. And she said to me, look, why don't you not go on your date tonight? Why don't you come back to my place and spend the night with me? And I said, well, no, I've got to go on the date because if I miss a night, then I won't do 50 dates in a row and I'll fail the task. I've got to do 50 dates and 50 consecutive nights. And if I miss a night, that'll wreck the show. She said, I don't think you were really listening to what I just said. That, saying, why not go on the date? Why not come back to my place and spend the night with me? I said, look, I'd love to do that. I hope we'll do it another time, but I've got to go on the date. I chose the show over my own personal gratification. And as it happened, that night was the only slightly weird one of the 50. The girl I was meant to meet was like an hour late for the date. When she finally turned up, I said, what happened? Were you delayed at work? She said, oh, no, what happened was that this afternoon at work, I accidentally took some sleeping pills, and I had to go to hospital to have my stomach pumped, because, you know how quite often you're at work in the middle of the day, you'll take a few sleeping pills. I mean, sometimes enough that you have to go to hospital. I mean, that is normal. That wouldn't make you mentally ill. So I had this slightly unusual date with this young lady, all the time thinking about where I could have been. The next day, the girl I liked went to a wedding, was sitting at a table with another guy. They hit it off and started going out with each other. I couldn't really complain. I was still dating another 25 women at that point, but the point is I could have married that woman. I could have had kids with her. I could at least have had a shag, definitely. A definite shag. I chose the show over my own personal happiness. I'm not sure I'm prepared to do that anymore. And in July last year, 2 weeks before this show was going to premiere at the Edinburgh Fringe, if I shaved off the moustache, I wouldn't have time to grow it in time again for this very important first show. It was my parents' golden wedding anniversary. So I had to decide, how am I going to go to my parents' 50th wedding celebrations with a Hitler moustache? Because if I do, that's probably going to ruin it for them. But if I shave it off, it'll ruin the show, which is more important. You have to think my poor mum, she'd have to introduce me to everyone going, yes, this is our youngest son, Richard. Yes, I suppose he does resemble Hitler. Now you come to mention it, I don't think that makes our whole marriage an affront against God and nature, something that would have been better had it never happened. You know, in every photo at that occasion, I'll be standing there with this moustache looking out the big group photo of the entire family. That's the one photo of me that will survive, and that'll be handed down the generations. In 200 years' time, there'll be no other image of me than that one picture. Future herrings will be looking at it going, there's your great-great-grandma, she was an amazing woman. There's your great-great-great-great-aunt, she lived an awesome life. Who's that fellow there? The man with what can only be described as the Hitler moustache, as we will still obviously call it even now, 200 years in the future. Nothing can ever change that. That's your strange great-great-great-Uncle Richard. No one knows too much about him. He never had children of his own. Our best guess is he was a Nazi paedophile of some kind. Was it worth besmirching my very future reputation for this idiot? And I did no offence, I just didn't think it was. And at the end of the first week, I got an audition for a sitcom. And I had to think, am I going to go to this audition with this moustache? Because if I do, it'll be a really funny story for the show, but I just definitely won't get the part. I mean, is it worth sabotaging my career for a joke? Because we already know casting directors can only go by exactly what they see. I'd walk in, they go, well, you've got a Hitler moustache. The character doesn't have a Hitler moustache. I see no way you could possibly ever play this part. I thought maybe I could just shave the moustache off if I got the role. I don't understand what you mean by that. I can say it's on your... You know it's there, right? I've got a good part you could audition for. It's Hitler. Would you be interested in trying to make this decision? And you know, I decided I would shave off the moustache. I'd give myself a chance of getting this part. To be honest, it was an excuse. I'd hated it so much. This had been like a millstone around my philtrum, this thing. And that is the second worst place to have a millstone, by personal experience. But as it happened, I did a really shit audition. I didn't get the part anyway. So I've got neither a funny story for the show or a career. But, you know, I thought it doesn't matter. People will appreciate, they'll respect me for having given this a go. They'll see I've done it for a week, how difficult that was. They'll see they'll admire my balls for even trying it for a week. And there'll be enough funny stories from that 7 days to fill up a 90-minute tour show. No problem whatsoever. No. Probably I've only done like 40 minutes. I kind of went, well, that's it now. That's the story there. I think you feel a bit shortchanged, but we just have to wait for the clock to tick down to... fulfil my contractual obligation. Yes. Do you remember the bit when I grew the Hitler moustache? That was probably my favourite bit. Oh, tell us something. It felt like a lot longer than that. Then I thought to myself, what if Hitler had just shaved off his moustache after 1 week? What if he'd gone, oh, people are laughing at me, I'm feeling all self-conscious. He wouldn't have gone on to have the amazing successes that he had. I thought about Hitler looking down at me from heaven. And I'm not being contentious there. That's not even a joke. I'm not being one of the new offenders. I know for a fact Hitler's in heaven. That's just definite fact. That's not even a joke. Because I don't know if you're watching Sky News the night that Michael Jackson died, but within an hour and a half of Michael's death being declared, his best friend, Yuri Geller, was on Sky News being interviewed about the intimate details of Michael's life. He'd had 90 minutes to grieve. I think that's fair enough. And Yuri Geller's magic, right? He can bend metal. He can see the future. He knows everything about everything. All the secrets of the universe are an open book to him. He knows everything. In that interview, Yuri Geller said that Michael Jackson was definitely in heaven. For me, the astonishing thing about that remark was Yuri Geller had just confirmed there definitely was a heaven. That was the talking point for me. Centuries of theological and philosophical debate just saw it out there, and then I assumed Sky News would turn to that as their breaking news story. The existence of heaven definitely confirmed, but no, they chose to stick with the Michael Jackson dying as the breaking news for the next 28 days. But not only is there definitely a heaven, that's good news, but Michael Jackson is definitely in it, which is brilliant news for the rest of us, isn't it? I mean, if Michael Jackson's definitely in heaven, don't really matter what the rest of us do I? Like, you knock yourself out, mate, have the time of your life, don't you worry. Fill your boots, mate. There's a cloud reserved for you up in heaven, probably a little bit away from the cherubs. It'll still be in a nice area. So if Michael Jackson's definitely in heaven, I think it logically follows that Adolf Hitler is also definitely in heaven. Don't think there's anything contentious about that, but I'm not making light about Michael Jackson's death. I think his death and his life, in fact, are like a Shakespearean tragedy about the nature of fame, except it really happened. This prodigiously talented 4-year-old child thrust into the world spotlight before he's ready, losing his childhood, spending the rest of his life trying to grasp that childhood back, losing his identity, changing his face because he doesn't know who he is anymore, losing his race, his ethnic identity, and then dying at the age of 50. I mean, this is a terrible, terrible story. And I don't know if you saw his funeral. It was quite a mawkish affair. They had, like, entertainment laid on. They had that little kid, though, didn't they, from Britain's Got Talent on there singing a song in front of everyone. I thought, haven't you learned a fucking thing? Does anyone remember why we're here? Anyone remember what happened the last time we did this? Little kid, millions of people, the bloke in the box there's a kind of clue. No, you're right, but no, it probably won't happen again, will it? I mean, lightning doesn't strike twice. This one probably won't turn into a mental paedophile. It's fine, What got me was the way that the symbol of Michael Jackson changed overnight. He was this demon when he was alive, then he died, and suddenly he was like Jesus. He was unimpeachable, especially with the media. I hated that hypocrisy, but everyone went a bit crazy about this. If you made a joke the week after, Michael Jackson joked the week after he died, people got furious with you, and I was thinking, you know what, people were making these exact same jokes last week when Michael Jackson was still alive. If you loved him as much as you said, maybe that would have been a good time to complain about it, when he might have actually heard them. It doesn't really matter now, does it? You know, this hysteria, it was weird. Within 2 hours of Michael Jackson's death, people started gathering in the street outside the hospital he died in, which seemed a little bit morbid to me. And Sky News, having nothing else to report on, we're talking about this non-story. The reporter's looking down, going, die-hard fans are congregating outside the hospital. I thought, what are the die-hard fans doing this? This isn't a time for them, is it? This is a time, if for anyone, for the Michael Jackson fans to be showing their... Can't see any connection between Michael Jackson and Die Hard. As far as I remember, Argyle, the show for like the music of Run DMC. It's inappropriate, these people. You Die Hard fans, stop muscling in on this. Get out of there. You'll have your time. When Bruce Willis dies, she'll get down to the Nakatomi Plaza. Make as much fuss as you like. Until that time, I was furious at it. Get out. Get away from there. What you thinking is so inappropriate. Go away. So what you're doing is... Be ashamed of yourself. It's not a time. It's not a time for you. Just go. If it's embarrassing enough, just go now. Get I suppose if the Die-Hard fans were there, they could at least warn the Michael Jackson fans about the dangers of dangling someone out of a window. So I thought about Hitler looking down at me from heaven. He was saying, what are you doing, Rich? Carry on. It's not the fashion now, but it will be later because you wear it. I think I can't take it back. You've wrecked it. I can't take it back. But I thought Chaplin, he was looking down at me going, I thought you were trying to take this moustache back for me and for comedy. You've given it 1 week. Oh, thanks a lot. Whoopie fucking do. I'm being sarcastic in case you've failed to pick that up through the ether. I thought, yeah, they're right. I'd made a commitment to them. I'd made a commitment to you, sir, and the thousands of humorless idiots like you I would have to entertain. I couldn't just give up. I'd said I would do something. I couldn't just give up on this because I was feeling a bit insecure and unhappy. I had to press on with it. I realised I was probably going to have to grow this moustache back for a second time, even though I'd hated it so much. But to find out if I did grow the moustache back for a second time, you're going to have to wait. Come back for the second half of the show. It's like a little cliffhanger over the interval. Will you grow it back, won't you? I don't know. People are probably... If you're at home, pause the tape now. The tape, that's right, the videotape. VHS will be, Max, pause it, and just have a discussion amongst yourselves as to which you think it will be, and we'll come back in a little while, we'll work out which is. People will be going, well, he hated it so much the first time. Why would he grow it back again? I just don't think he could have. There'll be some arguments, but just have a little think, go away, and when we come back in a little while, we'll have the answer as to whether I did that, whether I did grow it back. We will find out in a minute. Thank you very much for listening to the first episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Richard Herring.
Thank you, Cardiff.